Yeah, so we're in Yoreh Deah Siman. We're starting to do our second week, or really we had half this year last time on it. Today, my plan, we're going to look at the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch. I want to start with the Shulchan Aruch Seifim Aleph through Gimel, Seif Daled, which God willing, if we have some time at the end, maybe we'll take a look at because actually some good stuff about knives. But if not, we'll do it when we do Nat Barnat, and also there's a Siman on the Duchtet, the Sakina, and Devar Harif. Um, I want to look at the Pri Chadash also, which where he talks about, well, how do you count 6 hours essentially. I also want to talk. There's some Shach and Taz, particularly, and this is what. And then if we have some time, also maybe people saw that Moshe Stern, right? In the Be'er Moshe has this question which kind of brings all this stuff together of if I ate meat and I pick up a glass of milk, I don't know, an hour later, 2 hours later, and I say, Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, shakol niyeh bidvaro, and I'm about to drink and oh, wait, it's only been 2 hours. What do I do? Do I drink? Do I not drink? Do I take the bracha levatala? Do I say Baruch Shem kavod malchuto le'olam va'ed? Right? What's the proper action there? And the other thing I want to leave in our minds here is um, that I want to also think about a little bit is the Rama is well, maybe I'll ask. This is a good question. The Rama brings two shitot for how long you wait between meat to milk. What are the two shitot? Noam.
1 hour and 6 hours?
Exactly. And so here's the question with 1 hour, right? Right. For if I wait 6 hours, what do I seemingly not have to do at that point? Josie.
Kin- Quinoa and hidiach, right?
Exactly. Don't have to wash out my mouth, don't have to clean out my mouth. What if I wait 1 hour? Is 1 hour just like a lenient version of 6 hours? Or what's the other possibility that 1 hour is, which you hopefully you saw in the Achronim. Isaac, what do you have?
Like 1 hour as the minimum, but then you have to clean. Whereas if you were to go 6 hours, then effectively the meat will kind of like nastyify and dissolve.
Exactly. And so 1 hour is a chumrah on the Tosfot Shita, right? But that means you still have to do, right, hadacha, and you still have to do kinuach. Um, Now I can't tell you, I don't know how it's done, but people have all sorts of shitot, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, into the sixth hour, 6 hours. I've never met anyone who does 24 hours, but like Mar Ukva's father, but maybe Rav Lanis, people who do 24 hours?
There were Tunisian Jews who did 24 hours. And the fellow talking about his father said to me, as a result, I've never seen my father have milchus, chalavi.
Wow. All right. So that's um it's and so the question is for things that are less than 6 hours, which I don't know we'll get a full answer. Maybe someone writes this, but definitely we'll get an answer for 1 hour. There might be a requirement then of right mediach and kinuach, right? It's not just you wait, that you actually have to treat it like a tosfot shita, where you actually do have to clean your mouth out between the two. So that's an important thing to think about with all of this. Um, but this, of course, right, all of this is a little bit in Yana Diyoma because Shavuot's coming up. And if you look in the Mishnah Berurah, it's actually a good thing, right? Mishnah Berurah talks about this idea that you see in the Magen Avraham about eating chalav on Shavuot. And the Mishnah Berurah talks about, well, how do you do that? Because there's also, if you look in Masechet Beitza, there seems to be, you can make some arguments, but seems to be a requirement to eat basar on Yom Tov. So how do you eat chalav and basar both at your Yom Tov meal? And so how do we do this? You can change the order, maybe do chalav first, then do hadacha and kinuach, and then if you need to, and then eat basar or something like that. It's in the Mishnah Berurah. So okay, good. Any questions from there? Let's open to the tour in Pei Tet in Yoreh Deah, and we'll do some reading. All right. Josie, you want to start us?
In the tour, you said.
The tour, yes.
Pay Ted. Hold on, I have the wrong. See.
Rabbi Yaakov ben Asher. So,
Right. Okay. אכל בשר לא שנה בהמה חיה ועוף, לא יאכל גבינה אחריו עד שישהה כשיעור שהזמן סעודת הבוקר עד סעודת הערב, שהוא 6 שעות.
good.
So if you eat meat, it doesn't matter whether you're having domesticated meat or wild meat or fowl. You can't eat cheese afterwards until you've waited a shiur, an amount of time that's between the morning meal and the afternoon meal, and that is 6 hours.
Good. Who's that Shita like?
The Rambam.
The Rambam. This is the Rambam. Yeah, he's. But anyway, it's not surprising there are actually major sections where the Torah copies the Rambam if he decides to paskin like him. Okay, so keep going.
ואפילו אם שהכשיעור, אם יש בשר בין השיניים צריך להסירו. And even if you've waited this entire shiur, if there's still meat between your teeth, you have to take it out. You have to floss. ובתוך הזמן אפילו אין בשר בין השיניים, אסור לפי שהבשר מוציא שומן ומושך טעם עד זמן ארוך. And even if there's no meat between your teeth, or if there even if there's within this time, even if there's no meat within your teeth, it's still forbidden to have cheese because the meat exudes fat and leaves a taste and leaves a taste for a long time.
Exactly.
ולפי זה הטעם, אם לא אכלו אלא שלעושו לתינוק, אין צריך להמתין. And because of this, if you don't actually eat it, but you just chew it up so that you can make baby food for the baby, you don't have to wait. Because you didn't eat it, it didn't exude any taste.
Good. Right. This is so here the concern seems to be the meat's where?
In your teeth or in your gullet.
I think if you, yeah, like your throat, your stomach, who knows, right? It's like the fat is hanging around but it has something to do with swallowing it here, it sounds like, right? That if you didn't swallow it, if you chew it up for your child, or also I'd say, right, if you're, let's say you're cooking a meal and you're tasting the meat, according to this shita, right? We're going to see how we paskin, but, and you're tasting the meat and then you spit it out, right? Sometimes, you might do that. You taste and spit it out. Gets you out of all sorts of bracha concerns and all sorts of other things. Then maybe you wouldn't have to wait, right? Then maybe there's no waiting period. So, okay, good. That's, by the way, whose shita is that?
This I'm also blanking on. I think that this is not Rambam.
It's not Rambam. I can't remember who it is, but it's not Rambam. That's the important thing. So yeah, that's okay. So now he's got that's solution number one, but now he's going to give the Rambam. So keep going.
But the Rambam differs. והרמב"ם נותן טעם לשיעה משום בשר שבין השיניים, לפי דבריו לאחר ששהה שישור מותר אפילו נשאר בשר בין השיניים, והלועס לתינוק צריך להמתין וטוב לאחוז בחומר שני הטעמים. But the Rambam gives a noten tam gives a different reason for waiting because of the meat that gets stuck between your teeth, and according to his words, even after you wait the shiur, it's permitted to it's permitted even if there's a little bit of meat left between your teeth, because presumably it's decomposed or it's become yucky. But if you're chewing between, for your kid, you have to wait because there's maybe still meat between your teeth, presumably.
Exactly.
And it is good to hold on to the stringent parts of both opinions.
Yeah. So good. So what's the Rambam? What's his take on what's the 6 hours all about? Open question to group.
How long the meat seems to hang out in your mouth.
Yeah, in your teeth, right? In between. Remember, basar ben hashinaim, like parshat be'alotcha, right? That the basar is ben hashinaim. That's still called basar according to the Gemara. And he's like, yeah, that's it. And then after 6 hours, well, somebody asked it this way: what happens to the meat after 6 hours? say this in like Gemarish terms.
It's not meat. It's not called meat.
Yeah, it's no longer called basar. That's the Rambam, right? It's called basar for 6 hours. After 6 hours, it's not called basar, right? Versus the other shita seems to have the opinion that yes, it's always called basar ben hashinaim, but what we're really worried about is how long does the shuman that's in your system still exude flavor or something like that. So, people have a different formula of that, the formulation of that than I said or that we said. Okay. Now, I would say, according to this, is the time the relevant factor?
Only
According to the
insofar as
Rambam?
it takes a certain amount of time for the meat to decompose within your mouth, and he determined either empirically or through whatever mechanism that 6 hours is the appropriate amount of time. It has to just decompose within so that it's no longer considered meat. That's
Exactly.
the Rambam's position.
Yeah. So, I imagine that there is some way to like create, a cool on the Rambam's position and say that maybe there's some way to, if you go to the dentist, I don't know, between the two, then all the meat, and they remove all the meat between your teeth, then maybe there's some possibility. You can also say, no, this is like just the Torah's idea of how meat between your teeth works is even if you remove all of it, it's still between your teeth, or it's impossible to remove all of it or something like that until 6 hours. But the one that's in your system, I imagine that's impossible to get around, right? There's no way you could get rid of that. So,
Do we know where the tour's bringing that from?
yes, I don't remember. Someone take a look at the Beit Yosef.
So I put in the chat. It seems he's taking the language from Rashi.
Okay.
Yeah, because for Asur Le'achol Gvina, Rashi says Mishum de Basar Motzi Shuman, and then interestingly, Rashi says Vehu Nibak Bepeh. Then he says V'marich Betamo. So it's kind of based on what Rashi says there, though he leaves out the Nibak Bepeh.
Yeah. But although the way that the Torah formula is that nidbak bepes it doesn't seem to be the case because it's not that it's stuck in your mouth, but rather that it's, because when you just chew it, it doesn't happen. It's something that only happens when you swallow it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my point. That it seems
Yeah.
loosely based on the Rashi, but it's leaving out the middle part.
Yeah. So, okay.
It could be the teeth versus it's still the mouth. Like it could be the teeth versus the palate or you know what I'm saying? When you chew for a kid, it's not eating, so it's not hitting your, I don't know, back of your tongue.
Yeah. Fair. So it's you think it's like that's maybe following the Rashi. It's in the mouth, but it's just when you chew it and spit it out, it doesn't actually get to anywhere but the teeth, kind of thing. So it's only a teeth concern.
Well, I mean, and to be fair, the Torah doesn't say because it goes into your gut. It says motzi tam, same language as
Right.
Rashi, essentially. It's just a question of what do you mean by motzi tam? Like where the flavor came out, where did it go?
So, good. I just want, who gets ignored in this whole formulation of the Torah?
Tosfot.
Tosfot, right? Tosfot's, right? It's all about let me just a good review. What does Tosfot's shita really seem to be for waiting or for the time between meat to milk? Or the
A different Suda. You just need a different Suda.
Exactly. You need a separation. It actually, I think in some ways it's kind of like, you can't put basar and gvina on the same table. It's like you just need to separate the two of them. So you need, right? You need to get the flavor out. Maybe you need to wash out your mouth. You need to, change saber katamazon. You need to change the tablecloth maybe. But, like it's just, you need a separation. It's not about the mixing flavors in your mouth for them or anything like that. And you could say maybe it is because you can wash it out, but maybe they're like, oh, but it's just washable. But I think there's a way to look at the Tosfot as like it's about separation at the end of the day. So, good. Let's let's actually go to the Shulchan Aruch from here. See how he formulates it. So Peitet Shulchan Aruch Seif Aleph. Let's take a look. I don't know. Any reader? I volunteered Josie, but now I'll take volunteers. Josie, you were drafted. So
Can we just popcorn it over to somebody else?
You can go ahead. You get to do that.
Jacob.
So, all
I'll do
right,
it. I'll send it to my chavruta.
that sounds good. We can't hear you though. Am I the only one who can't hear Jacob? No one can hear Jacob. Jacob, we're going to let you fix your sound on the side, and we're going to. Ori volunteered, and so we're going to give it to Ori.
I'm happy to read. Where am I reading in the Shulchan Aruch?
Oh, very beginning of the Shulchan Aruch, yeah.
אכל בשר, אפילו של חיה ועוף, לא יאכל גבינה אחריו, עד שישהה 6 שעות, ואפילו אם שהה כשיעור, אם יש בשר בין השיניים צריך להסירו, והלועס לתינוק צריך להמתין.
Mhm.
So mostly the same as the tour, but you do have to take the food out of your teeth, so it's in that sense a teeny bit more machmir than the Rambam. And if you chew, is this also like the Rambam that if you chew but don't eat, you still have to wait?
Good. Well, let's put it. You said more machmir than around. What did he do with the tour essentially?
He took the final shita, which was lachmir on both sides.
Exactly. Yeah. This is really a summary of the tour in some ways, right? He doesn't give you the background as to why you have to do each of these, which the tour does. He just gives you the maskana of the tour at the end of the day. But he's posking exactly like the tour. Okay, good. No, let's keep going. Let's do the Ramah. Yeah.
Yep. ואם מצא אחר כך בשר שבין השיניים ומסירו, so if you found some meat in your teeth and took it out, צריך להדיח פיו קודם שיאכל גבינה. So assumedly after 6 hours, you still need to really clean out your mouth well. And lahadiach, does that mean with liquid?
Yeah, exactly, to wash it out. So, by the way, one side note to this, what do the Rambam say about hadacha in terms of separation?
I don't remember.
Here it's about going from milk to meat. People remember? He leaves it out. He talks about netilat yadayim, but he doesn't talk about hadacha. He just talks about kinuach, which some people understood that he read the sugya as hadacha there means hadachata yadayim and not hadachata peh, right? Okay, just to remember that, the Rambam seems to have a slightly different read of the sugya, or maybe he has a slightly different version of the sugya. One of the two. All right, but the Ran. Oh, go ahead.
Or did we understand the whole thing with Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai that like they both mean both?
That's how we understood it. Yeah, and the Rambam doesn't seem. Maybe he did. That some people I think suggest the Rambam understands it as maybe they don't mean both, right? They don't both mean both. But that was the Rashi understanding. Good point. So, just one thing. Just what has the Ran maybe brought back here? That was the Ran Shita that we just read in the Ramah. That's what I.
Right. So, what does that add to what the Mechaber already said?
Exactly.
I mean, just the hadacha.
Exactly. Yes, I think he's kind of. I don't know. This is my sense here. Is the Ran he's not willing to say 6 hours gets you out of hadacha. In general, he said, all right, if you don't find any meat between your teeth, maybe then fine. But it's about the meat between the teeth. And remember that whole hadacha thing? It's not like the 6 hours got rid of that. That was kind of weird, right? You could say, wait a second, we had this whole conversation about between meat and milk, you have to wash your mouth out. And then we've got like Mar Ukfa comes in and he says, yeah, you have to wait or like I wait a certain amount of time. My father waited longer, but nobody said you don't have to do hadacha if you wait that amount of time, even though the Rambam did. And I think the Ran may be rereading the sugya as like there's a wait time and there's cleaning out your mouth, and then both of them are necessary. So, Max.
Is it possible that it's only necessary if you happen to find a piece?
That's what
as opposed to lechatchila, like in your head that you've cleared everything out.
Good. That was my
Say it again.
That's my question on the Ran is whether or not he does he mean what's the stam case, right? He says imatsa achar kach basar ben hashinayim. It sounds like you're right. Maybe stam mina stam that you don't actually have to check or anything like that. But if you happen to find it, but I think there is a way to read that of
Right.
yeah, and maybe you should check. So, check, take
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
floss your teeth, and then wash it out, kind of thing. So I don't know who do we have a gra on that? Does the gra say anything interesting? Uh 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 mm, Not that really helps me there. No, okay. So he just except for the fact that he thinks that the Ran is holding the shita of that's about the meat between the teeth and not about the moshech tamo. But okay, so that's all. That was a chumrah, right? That we just added there from the Ran, but now we've got the yeshamrim from the Ramah, which is gonna kind of reverse us. So, all right, keep going.
ויש אומרים דאין צריכים להמתין 6 שעות, רק מיד אם סילק וברך ברכת המזון מותר על ידי קינוח והדחה. So he brings the Tosfot, and we can also see here a bunch of other, well, in my copy, it lists a bunch of people who support the Tosfot view.
Yes.
Tosfot Mordechai, Gaot Ashiri, Gaot Maimoniot. והמנהג הפשוט במדינות אלו להמתין אחר אכילת הבשר שעה אחת, ואוכלים אחר כך גבינה. So what we see in the countries that, in the countries that follow this shita of Tosfos, they still also wait an hour, and then they can have cheese.
Exactly.
ומיהו צריכים לברך גם כן ברכת המזון אחר בשר. But you also, don't forget the part of the Tosfot where you have to make birkat hamazon after meat. Da'az hevi kisu'uda acheret demutar lachol divrei hamikilin. Only then. So he's just clarifying that in those places where they wait an hour, that Ikar Hadin here from Tosfot is that you have to be in a separate meal, which means doing birkat hamazon in between.
Exactly. You can't have a meal where, I don't know, your first course is a meat course, and then, you schmooze, you teach some Torah, whatever it is you do, and then an hour goes by, and then you serve the milk course. That he says, no, you can't do that. It has to be a separate meal. So, okay.
אבל בלא ברכת המזון לא מהני המתנת שעה, ואין חילוק אם המתין השעה קודם ברכת המזון או אחר כך. It doesn't matter when the hour is, before the Birkat Hamazon or after. ואם מצא בשר בין שיניו אחר השעה, צריך לנקרו ולהסירו. So if you find some meat after that hour, you have to remove it. ויש אומרים דאין לברך ברכת המזון על מנת לאכול גבינה. But there are those who modify that shita also, that you can't use Birkat Hamazon as a way to bring in the cheese course. אבל אין נזהרים בזה, ויש מדקדקים להמתין, אבל אין נזהרים בזה. On that last part.
Yeah.
ויש מדקדקים להמתין 6 שעות אחר אכילת בשר וגבינה, וכן נכון לעשות. So, and it's funny to use the language of Viesh Midaktikin. You'd think it would be a little bit stronger, like the mainstream minhag, but is it possible that in the Ramaz community, 6 hours was not as pervasive?
It's a good look at the Shachet.
He says, Haga Pashut. So in other words, the mainstream was the 1 hour.
Oh yeah. That's what seems to be what most people are doing, right? The average, I think,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that he did a sociological study, but it seems to be that exactly like Shammai said. If you ask the average person in the Ramaz community, I assume he means like in Krakow. Yeah, they're waiting an hour between milk and meat. So
also, he has this very specific warning for that group that you should be doing Birkat Hamazon. Don't think it's really an hour. That's just an expression of the Tosfos Shita, which should have been Birkat Hamazon.
Yeah, if we're going to say that people do not give psak lechinam, right? There's a reason behind it. It sounds like there are people who are not doing Birkat Hamazon between the two of them, and we're making sure that they do it. Or you have to kind of remind them. But yeah, look at Chet.
Yeah, the Shach, this is fun Shach. וכן נכון לעשות, וכך כתב מהרש"ל, וכן ראוי לעשות לכל מי שיש בו ריח תורה, עיין שם. So yeah, but this is really the real minhag for those who like care about Torah or have
Yeah.
a whiff of Torah.
So it's like this is like the Amei Haaretz and the Chaverim kind of going on here, right? This is the average Jew who, the Baal Habayit, they wait an hour, but we who learn Torah, we wait 6 hours. That's the proper thing. So,
So at what point did the dominant Ashkenaz minhag go to six then?
oh, yeah, I don't have a good answer for you on that, the sociological piece of it.
Because it seems like nowadays the popular conception is that 1 hour is the province of the Ashkenazi Dutch, because the
Yes.
Sephardi Dutch holds six,
Hmm.
and the predominant Ashkenaz is some flavor of six, five and change, 5.5, 6, and that 3 hours is just complete stut. And
Well, no, I know a lot of German Jews who hold three. And I've met. I don't know. We could do. I don't want to call anybody else. I don't want to make anyone do a poll here. But I've met people who do two. I've met people who do four. I do ask. I like to ask people if they're willing to tell me, like, how many hours do you do? And I've seen everybody. I've seen the whole range show up.
My grandmother, 2 hours.
2 hours, yeah. So three, yeah. So you can actually see a very large range among people, and I think I said this to some people. I met somebody, or not met some, they're old friends of mine. It happened to be they were like at last minute we were walking home from shul. We invited them for Shabbos, and they said, "Oh well, what are you serving? We're having milchiks for sashishit." I said, "Well, we're serving chicken," and they said, "Oh, that's fine. We only wait 3 hours from chicken to milk, but we wait 6 hours from." Basar behemat to milk, and which is definitely against the Rambam, although we've seen sources that make a distinction between the two. And although he told me that it was a custom his parents had that was completely made up at some point, and had nothing, not based in any reality. Rav Landis, please. So.
No, you're gonna go 3 hours, you have to have a schnapps.
It's
And by the way, that's how I pass them. This is
3 hours and
that clean, 3 hours that cleans out.
yeah.
2 hours, I don't know what that is. 1 hour is minhag avotayim biyadayim. So,
Mhm. So
but you have to have residency. I mean, you have to have that Dutch
mhm.
Dutch yichus.
So yeah.
Look, how long are meals between one and the other? Well, in the summer it's 6 hours. In the winter, between when you finish your Shabbos lunch to when you have Shalosh Finis, maybe it's 3 hours.
Yeah.
So the real question is, it's a question of everything you said so far, but the other part of it is, when is the next meal?
But
So that's how the 3 hour minhag of the Deutsche, unless you just want to say they're machmir on the Dutch.
yeah, I
Actually,
don't know which one it is. Are they being makil on the 6 hours, or
they're being makel. They're makel.
so
Makel.
but yeah, I know this is going to be a good thing too. Is I think I don't have a good answer. I'm not at the level, but maybe Rav Landis is already saying it. Is what happens when you actually do have like another Su'uda that's like a real Su'uda, like between like, and it's less than 6 hours away. Do you have to adjust one to the other, or really, something I've seen a lot, which I'll tell you, it bothers me a little bit. People like at Sudash Tashit saying, "Oh, after Shabbos, I want to have ice cream, so I don't want to eat meat at Sudash Lashit," kind of thing. Because that feels Shabbos wise problematic. That you're deciding your Shabbos meals based on what you're eating after Shabbos. My own personal opinion, um, but whether or not I'd rather that person be, follow a more makil shita on the wait time rather than decide what they're eating for Shabbos based on, having ice cream when they go bowling after Shabbos or something like that. So. I don't know. Maybe I'm too harsh. But, all right, good. With that, I want to look at the Taz here, because the one thing that the Ramah, again, he says you have to remove, if you wait an hour, you have to remove the meat between your teeth. But there, the 1 hour seems really like a kula on the Rambam. It's like a shorter wait time. But so I think this Taz is going to be very helpful. In terms of not kind of defining what's really going on there. So who wants to anyone see this Taz bet and wants to read it publicly? If not, I have someone I'm gonna call on. But Max, I was gonna call on you anyway, so good. You can read it. So
Great. I think that cancels out, so you find someone else.
yeah.
Okay. All right. אחר אכילת הבשר שעה אחת. זה לשון מהריה בזה. רבים עושים פשרה מדעתן להמתין שעה אחת אחר הסעודת בשר, וסילקו ובירכו ואוכלים גבינה, אף אגב דלא אשכחן רמז לשיר זה. מכל מקום, מי ימחה בידם הואיל והתוספות ורעביה מתירים. So some people decided of their own accord to make this compromise and do 1 hour after a meat meal, and they would clear the table and they would bench, and then they would eat cheese. And even though there's no, I don't know where they're getting this.
Yeah,
I don't know
exactly.
I don't know they're getting this 1 hour. Look, it's like not that far off from the Tosfos, so you can't exactly say that they're doing anything wrong.
And that's just they're doing longer than the Tosfot, right? Tosfot, it could be
Right.
however long it takes to
Yeah.
to say Birkat Hamazon and clear the table, they're
Right.
within an hour, so who's to stop them? All right.
Right.
But aval, you can skip the
אבל הצנועים מושכים ידיהם מסעודת שחריס לערביס, גם, לערביס גם,
I know Lavis, I
wait,
think period. So that's the end of the sentence there, really, I think.
oh, I see. Oh, okay, I see. Um, okay, but it's better to wait all the way morning to evening.
Exactly. This is the Snuim, right? We had
Right.
Ram Torah from the Shach. Here from the Taz, we have the Snuim. You should be waiting from, he doesn't say 6 hours, but he says, from the morning meal to the evening meal. So
Yeah.
I just want to throw in, I don't know, we live in a culture, I don't know about all of you. I live in a culture that is like a three-meal culture, right? The breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And, how that affects things is an interesting question. But historically, from what I did research on this at one point, like for a lot of history, people really were two-meal people. And okay, keep going.
Okay. גם נוהגים העולם דין חילוק בזה בין עוף לבהמה. And it's all meat, no distinction.
Exactly.
ורש"ל פירש, פרק כל הבשר. סמטס טמא על זה, למה נהגו להקל בזה נגד הרף והרמב"ם, שהצריכו לכל הפחוס 6 hours. But the Marshal doesn't understand how you're going to go against the 6 hours of the Rif and Rambam school, and do anything less than 6.
Yeah.
וכסף שרי דורה שנוהגים כרמב"ם ולא כתוספos דמתירים. And the Shari Dura says that we go like the Rambam against Tosfos here. ומכל מקום גם סילוק ובירך בעינן, דאם לא כן אפילו המתין כל היום אסר. But you've got to clear the table and you've got a bench, and even if you didn't do either of those things and you waited 12 hours, it seems, that doesn't do you any good. You need to bench, you need to clear the table.
Exactly. This is, kind of a very long meal, but it can happen, right? You can have a really long Suda. It happens at, a Simcha sometimes. I don't know how, I've never been one that lasted 6 hours, but they can last hours. And he says, yeah, you have to still make it. He's actually bringing the Tosfot as a chumrah on the Rambam Shita, right? You have to follow the Rambam for wait time, but you also have to follow the Tosfot as make sure it's a distinctive meal from one to one.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're still up. Keep going.
Yeah. The kasav od ve'im i afshar limchos biyad b'nei adam shenan b'nei Torah. But he says that you can't exactly protest the simple people who do 1 hour, I guess.
Exactly.
אבל בבני תורה ראוי למחוס ולגעור בהם שלא יקילו פחות מ6 שעות עד כאן. But if you're talking about Bnei Torah, you need to that you do need to straighten them out.
Yes. I guess I should
Um,
yell at everybody now who doesn't do 6 hours. Right, Dora? Is that okay. So
I think I've heard that Rav Schwab in Breuer's even would tell B'nai Torah in that community to wait six,
he,
even though three
even
was
though three was the
yeah,
standard in the Boyers community, he would say
yeah,
six. Interesting. And
six.
I assume he waited six then too. Sorry, or he waited six.
That's the shmua that I've
So
heard. Yeah.
um, okay.
Isn't that also the Gemara that we learned? It was from Shabbat, where it's like, some people do this, but the B'nai Torah are waiting 6 hours.
Well, the Gemara Shabbat was just how is the time between meals, right?
Right.
That's yeah.
So
Um, I could imagine somebody saying, I'm not saying we should say this, but someone saying nowadays that we do have fewer hours between meals because we have a lunch meal. Maybe it's, if you're really committed to the Tosfot idea and you actually think that Tosfot and the Reef are not differing, they're just talking about what, mina stam someone eats, separates their meals between, separates between their meals. Maybe I could see 3 hours coming in there, but, as Rav Lana said, drink some schnapps in between. So that's but okay, now Rav Landis, you're on mute. But oh wait, Rav Landis, you're muted.
They said, about this. Israel is making their Seifa, which they do only like every 15, 20 years.
Mhm.
They were making it in New York. And they have a major lunch. And the heads met with the caterer. They went through what they want, which is all Ashkenazi food, flanken and rib roast and kishka and all that. And then they said to them, and for dessert, you like to have Ben and Jerry's. Caterer goes, huh? At the end, we like to have Ben and Jerry's. Caterer says, I'm only a Pashut Yid, but they said, we'll have the dessert after the speeches.
We will, by the way, not so much today, although when we do not bar not, so let me get into a little bit today. We'll talk about and if you it was last Shabbos, 2 Shabbatot ago, right? We had my house a meat meal, and we had Ben and Jerry's has their non-dairy ice cream, but it's DE, so we'll talk about that in a few weeks. What's required between meat and DE if you're Ashkenazi and Sephardi, and how that differs. But, all right, Max, keep going. Let's finish up this Taz here.
Okay. ובלבוש כסף דהך המתנת שעה שזכר רמה הוא מדברי סמג והוא תau sofer. So the Levush thinks that the hour is coming from the smog, but it's a mistake. Shelo kasav shum posekin rak maharia ve'eser ve'heter kasvu haroch kasvu sheha'olam noagin kin aval lo ledina aval lo dedina hachi. So 1 hour is a mistake, and it basically shows up nowhere. Some people think that it's limits chus maybe, but definitely shouldn't.
Yeah,
he shouldn't do that.
He doesn't say shouldn't, but he does say like that's. It really seems to be olam nohagin, Ken, right? As you said, sleep was good. It's like it seems to be something a custom that popped up somewhere, and so they're just recording the custom. That's what they're doing. So
right.
Okay.
Right. ודבר פשוט הוא, דמי שנוהג בכול זו להמתין שעה אחת, שצריך גם כן לקינוח והדחה, כמו שהוזכר בדברי יש אומרים של רמה, שמזה נמשכה הכולה הזאת. But if you're going to do 1 hour, you definitely need to wash and bench and clean your mouth and all of that.
So good. That takeaway from the Taz, I think I found that, I don't know, personally very important that, if you have people that you're leading, you're giving advice to, and they say, well, we wait an hour. I think you need, and maybe even 3, I don't know, like Rav Landa said, you need to say, yeah, hadacha, and I'm not going to change your custom, right? That maybe is not possible, but hadacha and kinuach. You gotta rinse your mouth out. So, Noam.
Just the Marai, is that the Truman Hadeshin?
I think it is, yes. So,
Okay.
yeah. But which who interestingly, makes up all of his own questions. So, but do that as you want. But uh, yeah, this is my own take is that I think because I think that the Ramah presents it this way, but I think that my sense is the world that waits short times doesn't think about Hadacha. Like Hadacha and Kinuach has fallen off the map in some ways, and I think we need to not forget that, especially if this, as he says, this is an extension of the Tosfot. The Tosfot require that, and so if you're following the Tosfot Shita, you should follow the Tosfot Shita. But Shammai, did you want to say something?
Yeah, so because there's a question, he goes on in Sif Bet, what exactly constitutes hadacha? It seems like a two-step process. So you first have to chew bread, then you have to wash your mouth out. So it's like a big tararav, it's not so pashut that you just wash your mouth. If you read the Shulchan Aruch, if you read how he describes what constitutes kinuach and hadacha.
Yeah, we had that in the Gemara already, right?
Right.
That
So it's
yeah.
do you follow the whole process or not?
Well, I have an interesting question, like in the modern world where we have toothbrushes and dental floss, like, and you rinse your mouth out, when you do it. Maybe, I don't know, Rav Landis, maybe you have a thought, right? It's like if you brush your teeth, let's say you hold the 1 hour, let's say, or even 3 hours.
I think all those things are good.
Yeah.
My father was a dentist, may rest in peace. He would say a good hard apple
So
works.
but, if you remember
Yeah, I think all those things. You're all rub on them. People will come to you. You'll see what the situation is. The real question is when you're having a Shabbaton, how do you work that with the shul? And I'm in favor of the 6 hours. But in terms of individuals, these are all accepted minhagim.
Yeah. So, I mean, I used to work at a place that on Shabbos that the mashgiach was okay with 3 hours between a meat meal and a milk meal that's serving. So, all right. So you find out if you're eating there and if you wait longer, you find out what you can't eat and what's milchik. And we'll actually talk about at some point that there's the big kula between. Remember, so all of this is basar and gavina. We'll talk about tavshil basar and tavshil gavina, which we also hold the chumrah, but has leniencies in it that we, from the Ramah that we haven't seen yet. So, but before we do that, I want to look at the Pri Chadash since we're talking so much about all of this. It's probably in the back of a lot of your books, but I will just pull it up here just by sharing my screen. So, and if you have the thing I sent out, you can see it there too. That's Zoom. That's not the Pri Chadash. There we go. Sorry, it's on 2 pages here, and I'll see if I can make it a little bit bigger. Noam, you want to read?
Sure. Yeah, 1 second. Let me also just make it a little bit bigger. ומיהו לאו דווקא ששעות כגון בחורף שימים שרים, כל שאכל בשר בשחר מותר לאכול גבינה בסעודת הצהריים. So, okay, 6 hours doesn't really mean 6 hours. Like, for example, in the winter, where the days are short and people are eating meat in the morning, I guess that has to be like turkey bacon or beef sausages or something.
Well, hold on. You have to remember, right? They're eating after davening, right? So it's what we all call lunch, but for them, it's sudat. Because he has the next one is sudat sarah.
Well, what? No, yeah, the next. So no, I thought it was like mamash breakfast. That's why I was.
Yeah, it's breakfast, but breakfast comes at after davening. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
It's kiddush.
Okay.
It's kiddush.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but
okay, yeah, and then right, and then after that, you're allowed to eat cheese at lunch.
Mm-hmm. So,
okay. וכן אם אכל בשר sorry, I just scrolled. 1 second. וכן אם אכל בשר בחצי היום מותר לאכול בערבית, אבל גם דלקה בין אכילה לאכילה, אלא כמו 4 שעות בקירוב.
Mhm.
And so also, if you eat meat in the middle of the day, you're allowed to eat dairy at night, even though in between the two times that you're eating, there's only like roughly 4 hours.
Exactly.
וזה דבר מוסכם לכולי עלמא. And everyone agrees with this. והלשון הגמרא שם הווה בהסעודתה who de la achiona, acharina achiona. Because in the Gemara it says I didn't eat it this meal, but I will eat it another meal. Mashma de misuda lesuda shapir dame. And that means that from one meal to the next really is good. Lo kamiflig ben yamim tsarim le yamim arukim ela mashma kedek tivna. And we don't need to make a distinction between long days and short days. Rather, it's just as I've written.
Mm-hmm.
Should I keep going?
Yeah, keep going.
ולאכול בשר אחר גבינה יש להחמיר כספר זוהר, ואין לאכול אלא בשתי סעודות, ואחר שעה אחת. So eating meat after dairy, then you have to have the chumrah of the Zohar, and you need to eat meat and dairy in two separate meals, and after at least 1 hour of waiting time.
Yeah.
ומיהו בסעודה אחת, מעיקר הדין לא מצא למך על גבינה אחר הבשר, אף שעברו 6 שעות מאכילת הבשר. וכן כתבו מהרש"ל ושאר אחרונים. But in just one meal, you're not allowed to eat cheese after meat, even if the meal lasted actually more than 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the Marshal says, and that's what other Achronim say. Bilshon Sefer Zohar Veikar. And it's very clear from the Sefer Zohar, and that's what we got to do.
Yeah. Right. Sefer
Let
Zohar.
me just ask, what makes two sudot?
It seems to. Well, I'll put it to the class. What are we seeing that makes two sudot? I think there's 2 steps here, right?
Benching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And clearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is funny. You have to imagine there's a lot of Jews out there who are quite strict about waiting times, but not so strict about benching. But they should be, like they're not separate according to the position of the Tosfot.
Yeah, I go further, right? Benching is a deraita mitzvah.
Deraisa.
And waiting times, I think we can agree the waiting time it's a derabanan. It doesn't make it, lenient, but it makes it derabanan, right? So benching, yeah, they should bench.
I was thinking this is a good way to sort of leverage Birkat Hamazon with like my kids. Meaning if you explained, you want to have, I know you want to have ice cream later, you're willing to make decisions based on that. Well, remember, you have to do Birkat Hamazon in order to do that.
But
I also wanted to just comment that it feels like
yeah,
the halacha is preserving, in a lot of ways, even though there are some strong statements here in the Achronim, it's preserving this as a matter of custom. First of all, it's very clear in the Gemara. It's presented as a matter of custom. The whole idea is like what my father did, what I do. There isn't a psakish moment, at least in that Gemara, to kind of like hilchata language. And then I think even by the Achronim saying, l'chein ra'u la'asot, l'chol mi sheyesh bo reach Torah, like, Talmidei Chachamim should do like this. Actually, what you're doing there is preserving the idea of it having a minhagic element, right? Because you're saying, like, we know these people are doing this, instead of not trying to quote unquote force the masses to change. So it's worth noting because you are seeing numbers just sort of being thrown out. Like now we did see Arba Sha'ot here in the Pri Chadash.
Yeah. Good. Well, good. I want to actually ask about what the Pri Chadash is. One of them that he's doing is maybe saying, all right, but what are hours? Halachically, we don't see hours as like 60 minutes. We often see hours as 1/12 of the day. And then let's keep the year consistent. It's not like you have to wait less time between the winter and the summer. If it's, so you wait it's 4 hours in the winter, 4 60-minute hours in the winter. So wait 4 60-minute hours. That's his take. But he's doing something else here, I think, which I think is very powerful. And
he's preserving the logic of the Gemara and Tosfot because the reason is if you get too fixated on the hours and you forget that the reason is to be between meals, you're really missing the point.
Yeah. what he might say, it's interesting. He might say that, um, I think what he is saying, and maybe I'm reading too much, but is if you have a Suda and then you have a second Suda, as long as there's there are two distinct Sudot, and like not like I make a new Suda right after, but like really truly two distinct Sudot that have some, time gap between the two of them. So like, don't worry about the amount of time, but don't eat a meat meal and then go eat a snack afterwards as milchig and say, well, I waited a little bit of time, I'm good, right? It really has to be a new meal. It's not anything between the meals. It's not fair game to eat milchiks, or even in his way, maybe even the other way, in between the two. Maybe from milk to meat, maybe he's like a snack if you wait an hour because he's following the Zohar, but not. But that really the ikar is is two distinct meals, and two distinct meals isn't that I made them two meals like the Tosfot, but like truthfully like when people eat meals, and that's what the Reef is saying is when people eat meals, like that's the amount of you can go if it's a new truly new meal per like the way the custom of the world is when a new meal happens, then you can eat milk after having eaten meat at the previous meal. So, um,
Except the Reef does change the idea of two meals into a shiur.
he does not. The Rambam does. The Reef never gives a shear.
He doesn't give a shiur, but doesn't he say the time between two
Yes.
meals?
Yeah. So I
Like
guess I'm saying
the step.
yeah, which is the ikar? Is the ikar the time or is the ikar the meals? Right at the end of the day, Tosfot's like an incredible cool on it where they say like, and even if you make an artificially new meal, that's fine. And I think the Reef is just saying an artificially new meal doesn't count. It's when between two meals of how Bnei Adam make meals in general.
But to be fair to the Rambam, right? So he doesn't actually give a strict definition of 6 hours. He says "Vehu kemo shesh shaot."
Exactly.
The way I read it is like really the defining characteristic is a separate seuda. In my community, it's 6. If you come and tell me in your community it's 4, okay, beseder. Then for you it'll be 4, right? Because he uses the word kemo shesh shaot.
Exactly.
I see that. Okay, this is how I'm used to in my community.
Yeah. Rav Landis, please. Oh, you're on mute again, Rav Landis. Yeah, we're getting.
Shammai, but you're not going that the Rambam's holding by 1 hour. Are you?
I'm just saying that he gave the 6 almost as an afterthought of in my community.
I got that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of numbers between 6 and 1.
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems to me the pre-Chadash. Oh, so, Noam, you go first, and then I'll.
No, I don't really think you can reconcile the Pri Chadash with the Svarot that the Torah mentioned of the Rambam or of what I suggested was Rashi. Because both the Rambam and the Rashi, whether it's stuck in your teeth or whether it's a taste that's just in your mouth or in your body, like actually has to do with like a material concern. And the
Yeah.
Pri Chadash is like, it seems like it really he's not concerned about your body at all. He's concerned about this more like sociological, cultural concern of like one meal to the next meal, but he's just not talking about like the material reality of your body.
That's yeah, it's a good point, right? The Rambam is the first one to really bring up the Metzias, right? Rashi also, both of them bring up the Metzias, and there you can't, right? If you really think it's about how long does it take is it Basar Ben Shinaim or the Moshech Ta'amo, right? Either of those, there you can't shorten it. At the end of the day, 6 hours is 6, like it takes that amount of time. That's the reality.
So in some ways, the Brit Chadash is kind of like a more Machmir sounding version of the Tosfot.
Yeah.
It's just like it's one meal to the next. Like it's kind of like a crazy Harama to just like bench and then clear and change meals, but it's like one meal to the next in the way that we actually space out our meals in a normal day.
Yeah, he does say, and it's interesting, he says Kule Alma, right? Everyone agrees with this, right? Which is kind of interesting. But
Right, but I'm sure you would also say Kuliyama, you need the physical reality is supposed to be contended with Hadacha and Kinuach.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's also Kuliyama in his mind. It certainly wasn't Tosfot, right? So it's just that to completely clean out the mouth is one process. It's not related to the time.
Yeah, actually, I think that's actually maybe what the Pri Chadash would say. I'm just putting words in his mouth. Is he'd say, yeah, the Rambam Shita is if you don't do kinuach or hadacha, and Rashi's also like you need to wait. If you don't do that, if you do kinuach and hadacha, then it's really meal to meal. But 6 hours is like the maximum in between meals where until you hit a point where you don't have to do kinuach and hadacha anymore potentially. So he would say, I would put it this way. It has to be two meals that are significantly spaced out, not like two meals like the Tosfot, like you said, like like this, like we're just gonna bench, clean the table, and like pretend it's a new meal, and but don't give up, and if you wait 6 hours, then fine. But if you wait less than 6 hours, it has to be significant, and you probably have to do kinuach and hadacha at the same time. So um, it gives
And the fact that
a lot of flexibility, I think, at the end of the day. So.
the fact that the Rambam is saying that after 6 hours you don't need kinuach and hadacha strengthens that read of the Rambam. That 6 hours is more of a maximal sheet, measurement of when there is a physical change, but obviously kinuach and hadacha are better and shorter.
Yeah. So. Good. While we're on it, since and then before we take our break, let's read bet in the Shulchan Aruch, because we're going to get into the Ramah there about this piece about waiting from milk to meat, and I think it's so. Shammai, did you want to read?
Yeah, sure. אחר גבינה מותר לאכול אחריו בשר מיד, ובלבד שיעיין ידיו שלא יהיה שום דבר מהגבינה נדבק בהם. Okay, so now it's the reverse. First we're eating cheese, and then we want to eat meat, so no problem. But you have to look at your hands to make sure that no piece of the cheese got stuck to your hands. So it seems like from up until now that you don't even need to wash. Just look at your hands. If they're clean, they're clean. צריך לרחצם וצריך לקנח פיו ולהדיחו. And if it's at night where you cannot examine your hands closely, then you need to wash your hands, and also to do kinuach, to wash your mouth, or wipe your mouth and wash it.
Mm-hmm.
So now what is kinuach and hazacha? והקיnuach הוא שילעוס פת ויקנח בו פיו יפה, וכן בכל דבר שירצה, חוץ מקמחה ותמרי וירקה, לפי שהן נדבקין בחניכיים. So the kinuach, the wiping, is really not what we call wiping. It's really chewing something. It's like a palate cleanser. Mm-hmm. So you eat something else. You eat a piece of bread, and that wipes your mouth out. And then it doesn't have to be bread. It could be anything except for these three things that we saw in the Gemara: flour and dates and vegetables, because they don't perform that action of cleaning your palate.
Yeah, they get stuck in the palate. I don't know.
Yeah, they get stuck in the yeah. So ואין מקנחין יפה. ואחר כך ידיח פיו במים או ביין. So then after you chewed the bread and did the kinuach, you have to wash your mouth with water or wine. So all this is talking about what? Basar behema v'chaya. This is only if you're eating meat of a domesticated animal or a wild animal. אבל אם בא לאכול בשר עוף אחר גבינה, אינו צריך לא קינוח ולא הדחה ולא נטילה. So chicken following cheese, no need for any of this. No need for kinuach or washing or rinsing hands or anything.
Yeah. Just two notes before we get to the Ramah. And you can look at your own. The Shachin Yud Gimel says that actually the order of kinuach and hadacha doesn't matter. It's not. It doesn't have to be first kinuach and then hadacha. And he also notes, and we've talked about this a little bit in Yud Daled, that basar behema, he has echaya included with it. Right? Echaya is derabanan, could have gone either way. So it's maybe about the mitziut of it and not about that it's derabanan, or actually no, sorry. He there says, I think it says, because that's like really like basar chaya is really like basar behema, right? As opposed to fowl, which is not exactly like it. So okay, we'll pause. We'll go into the Ramah, and then we'll have the discussion from there. So do the Ramah.
הגה, ויש מחמירין אפילו בבשר אחר גבינה. So there are those who are machmir that you have to wait if you want to eat meat following cheese. It's not enough to do this kinuach and hadacha. וכן נוהגין, and this is the minhag, or he saw this in the minhag somewhere, שכל שהגבינה קשה, אין אוכלין אחריה אפילו בשר עוף, כמו בגבינה אחר בשר. ויש מקילין ואין למחות, רק שיעשו קינוח והדחה ונטילת ידיים, מי הוא טוב להחמיר. So if it's hard cheese, then don't eat afterwards fowl or chicken, because it's like, and this has the same status as cheese after meat. But those who are maker, we shouldn't chastise them, but just make sure that they do the kinuach and hadacha and rinsing their hands.
Yeah. So, okay, good. This is, the way this usually you can look at some of the Achronim breaks down, they often talk about cheeses that are aged 6 months, right? Or wormy cheeses, which I assume means like moldy cheeses, right? Blue cheeses and stuff like that. Those you need to wait longer, wait the 6 hour, well, 6 hours or whatever your wait time is. It needs to be a parallel wait.
And what's the rationale? Is that because it's still in your teeth?
So good. That's how some people describe it. What's it like? The source seems to be the Zohar, which just says that. No, you don't think Noam is the Zohar?
No, sorry. I thought you signed a Taz that said Davka. It's the other svara, the fact that you still have the taste, so it's not the teeth. Or am I imagining this, or did I learn it on my own?
Well, it's the taste. Oh, you mean the Moshech Tamo? Yes, you're right. He says it's Moshech Tamo. I was saying, but the Zohar just is a source that it's.
So I wasn't taking note of that. It was just a delayed reaction. Yeah.
Yeah, the Zohar seems to think that if you bringing meat and milk to this, close together to each other in either direction, brings the Sitra Achra into the world. And so you should avoid it. It's like combining two aspects that should never be combined with each other, essentially. And so for the Zohar, for us, we read the Zohar too. For the Zohar, it's something that is very problematic, and it doesn't matter the direction, kind of thing. But yeah, you can say it's the flavor of the cheese sticks around for a while in a way that right. We never see a lot of people fight against it. Like, we never see, if you take the teeth thing, we never see the gavina between the teeth is still called gavina. We see it for basar, right? That's mifurash b'Torah. It's not mifurash about gavina, but maybe I think that is the claim. It's the Taz, right? Noam, that says he says yeah. So it must be about the flavor is still moshech tamo. In that case, but and so it's a question: do you think it's Moshech Tamo? And it's not in the Gemara, so I leave it open for that. Maybe I'll tell, and then we'll take a break. I taught in a high school, had a cafeteria, and there was one day they had the mashkiach put signs up all over the place that if you eat any of the cheese with the pasta today, you must wait 6 hours before you eat meat. I didn't talk to the mashkiach, but I thought that was, an interesting read of the Ramah. But I'm not sure the Ramah is saying that you must wait 6 hours. I think he's saying that there are those who do, and I think he's saying there are those who wait the same amount of time either direction. Whether that's 6 hours, I don't know for sure. So okay, but
Parmesan.
what was that, Ramah?
He's referring right to the Parmesan.
The Parmesan, yes, exactly. The Parmesan cheese that was on the pasta is what he was talking about for sure.
Listen, once we keep on talking about basar v'cholav, there's a movement to make them equal in strength. It's just like a natural kind of thing. And therefore, we can't. It's very hard to do that with yogurt or with Swiss cheese, not to mention American cheese. When we start getting to the real cheeses, they have a lasting effect.
Yeah.
So I think that's partially the mindset that's going on.
Good. So we'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to do the Beit Yosef Kuf Ayin Gimel at the beginning there in Orach Chaim, and not in Yoreh Deah, in Orach Chaim. We're talking about Tavshil Basar and Tavshil Chalav, because I want to take a look at that. And then if we have some time, we'll talk about knives, which is another good topic. So, and then maybe we'll get a chance to the Be'er Moshe as well. All right, so I'll see everybody in 5. Again. So we're in Orach Chaim and Kuf Ayin Gimel again, right? We saw this a couple weeks ago when we were dealing with Siman Pechet, But now we're dealing with Ole al Shulchan Echad, milk and meat. But now we're back to wait times. So just right as a kind of an intro, if you ever learn through Parak Kol Basar, it's a huge Netilat Yadayim sugya there. Right, we have this idea that Mayim Rishonim mitzvah, Mayim Emsaim Reshut, Mayim Achronim Chova. Right, Tosfot, at least for a lot of the world, wipes out Mayim Achronim. But this whole Mayim Imsaim Reshut is going to be the question. What does that mean? What are we talking about? And so let's see. Isaac, if you can, we'll do a little bit of the tour too. So let's start. We're at the very beginning of the tour in Kufayim Gimel in Orach Chaim.
Just a second. I pulled up the wrong thing.
Fair enough.
Okay, Kufa and Gimel in the tour.
Mhm.
Mayim Emsayi'im Reshut Amar Rabbi Nachman La Shana Ela Ben Tavshil LeTavshil אבל בין תבשיל לגבינה חובה. פירוש בין תבשיל לתבשיל אפילו היה הראשון של בשר והשני של גבינה. אין צריך ליטול כיוון שאין הבשר בעין ואין בו אלא טעם. וגם השני אין בו אלא טעם גבינה, אבל אם אכל אחר התבשיל של בשר, הגבינה בעין, חובה הוא ליטול. כתב
Okay, it's not there. Yeah. So.
Okay.
All right.
So basically you don't have to wash your hands, or sorry, you do have to wash your hands. And Rabbi Nachman says that's only in a case where you're looking at sorry, it's optional. That's only if you're talking about switching between two different dishes. But if it's between a dish and like cheese itself, then it's an obligation. So if it's between two different dishes, like a meat dish and a dairy dish, or sorry, I was about to say that, yeah. The first one is meat, and the second one is dairy. You don't have to wash your hands because you can't actually see the meat, and there's only the flavor of the meat in it. And ditto with the second one, there's only the flavor of the cheese. But if you eat if you eat cheese after a meat dish, hang on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you eat the cheese after the meat dish, then you can actually see the cheese. It's like davka cheese, and then you have to wash.
Good. So, all right. Let's any question about that before we see the Beit Yosef play all this out? Let's see the Beit Yosef play this out. Mayin Emsaim Reshut Amar Rav Nachman Lo Shanu Ela Bein Tavshil LeTavshil V'chulei. Keep going, Isaac.
Okay. בפרק כל הבשר וכתבו התוספות והראש שיש
יש מפרשים.
יש מפרשים בין תבשיל לתבשיל, שניהם של בשר או שניהם של גבינה, אבל בין תבשיל של בשר לגבינה שלפניו חובה, אבל בין תבשיל של בשר לגבינה שלאחריו לא. אפילו בנטילה אסור עד סעודה אחרת. ורבנו תם...
Pause there.
Okay. So in Parakol Basar, Tosafot and the Rosh say that there are those who say that they're talking about between two meat or two dairy dishes, but between a meat dish and cheese itself, you have to wash. But between between
I think that was between Tavshil Shel Basar Ligvina Shel Fanav Chova. Okay, good. That's an obligation.
Yeah.
Beforehand.
But between a meat dish and and cheese itself, that's like you're going to eat it afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what they're talking about.
Why? Because
Zafilu Bentila Asur sorry, I already read that. Because even with washing your hands, it's Asur until you get to another meal.
Exactly. So if you have a meat dish and two meat dishes, you don't have to wash. Two milk dishes, you don't have to wash. If you have cheese and then a meat dish, then you do have to wash. And if you have a meat dish and cheese, then there's no washing because you have to wait 6 hours or whatever the time may be. That's Shitan. That's one read of the Gemara. But we're gonna keep going. Rabbeinu Tam.
ורבנו תם זה לשונו, היה אומר דבין
I think here it's Zal actually. Here it's
Oh, Zal, sorry. היה אומר, that makes more sense. היה אומר דבין תבשיל לגבינה, משמע תבשיל תחילה, ועוד בין תבשיל לתבשיל ששניהם של בשר או שניהם של גבינה, למה לא ליטול ידיו? כלל. לכן פירוש דבין תבשיל לתבשיל, היינו בין תבשיל של בשר לתבשיל של גבינה. כיוון שאין הבשר בעין ולקה אלא טעם, לא החמירו שיהא חובה ליטול בינתיים, אבל בין תבשיל של בשר לגבינה, שהגבינה בעין חובה, ויתכן פירוש זה אפילו לדברי האוסלים גבינה, אכל בשר, בנטילה וקינוח עד כאן. Okay. So, so between a dish of meat and then after cheese, that means eating the meat, the dish first, and then also between two meat dishes or two cheese dishes. Like, why would you wash your hands? That doesn't make any sense.
He throws out that entire reading. It's like that makes why would you have a reshut? What I eat a meat dish, and I eat another meat dish. Why would I even bring up I have to do ma'im saim as reshut? That's ridiculous, right? Who cares, right? You know, at that point, myself between one bite and another bite, my saying should, right? Like that's nothing. So it must, and it doesn't say anything about Gavina first, right? It's so Rabbeinu Tam Sab is gonna he says, no, this must be between a tavshil of Gvina and a tavshil shel basar, tavshil shel Gvina, and the order doesn't matter, right? And there you just have to do Netilat Yadayim. But so it's only when you can see it, when it's be'ayin, then then it becomes a chova. And he says maybe even for people who think that givina after basar is, you have to do a wait time. It's not the same case when it's a tavshil. So, all right. So keep going.
Hang on, let me scroll down. ורבנו תפס עיקר בפירוש רבנו תם, ובפירוש זה מותר לאכול גבינה אחר תבשיל של בשר על ידי נטילה בינתיים. והבא לאכול בשר אחר תבשיל של גבינה צריך ליטול ידיו. וכן כתב הוא, זה לשון טור.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's, he should put it after people's names.
After his name is who? So,
but
like who's on first? It's all good.
Okay. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Who's Zichrono Livracha betur Yoreh Deah Siman Peitet. Right. This is what the Torah wrote.
Yeah.
Siman Peitet as well.
But I don't know what this next.
V'hagaot Maimoniot.
V'hagaot Maimoniot.
He says the Torah follows Rabbeinu Tam here. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. Now we get the Hagaot Maimoniot. Keep going.
בפרק ט' מהלכות מאכלות אסורות כתבו פירוש רבנו תם בשם
it's probably Sefer Halachot. I'm not sure. It's the Smag. Sefer Mitzvot Gedolot. So but whoever.
Okay.
Yeah.
ספר הלכות מיהו כתבו בשם סמק תצריך עיון ברוטב של בשר, דכשיש בו בשר מושך המים בפה.
It should be hatam. It should be hatam bepe. It's a mistake.
Okay. כלומר דילמה הדשארה לאכול גבינה אחר תבשיל של בשר, דווקא בגון ביצים מטוגנים בשומן שאינם מושכים המים בפה, כן כתב כל כך, אבל רוטב של בשר לא. Okay. So they wrote in Hagot Maniot, the Rabbeinu Tam's interpretation, the name of the smog, but they wrote in the name of the smock that the smock requires it needs to look more into the question of when you have this broth
Mhm.
that it's meaty because the broth the meat like we talked about before, it like brings the flavor all through the mouth and then apparently the throat or the gullet or something.
Mhm.
Um, um, so perhaps, uh, so perhaps it's permissible to eat cheese after a meat dish, like in the case
I would
of
actually say that which is permissible is only in the case of dafka in the case of, right?
these eggs that are like um like simmered in oil or something like that.
Fried in oil. You fried eggs in oil. Well, oil in the
Ah,
world is not vegetable oil, right? Oil is schmaltz, right? You fry
yeah.
eggs in schmaltz. So
Um, that that apparently doesn't spread the
yeah,
flavor in ways that are going to be a problem at all. Um,
but
but
yeah,
that's not the case with this broth or
exactly.
this
Or meat
drink.
sauce or whatever it may be, right? It's all right. But what is Rabbeinu Yonah, right? Actually, you know what? Actually,
Um,
we haven't given Kalev a turn. We're gonna flip to Kalev here. Kalev, you get to pick up in the
Okay, Laha Rabbeinu Yonah katav beperek elu devarim de'akar morach shel basar v'day mutar le'chol givina bechinuach ve'hadaka shelo hutzriku shehiyeh ela kishe ochal basar b'mnei habasar shebein hashenim
Hashinai. Yeah,
hashenaim aval hamarag delita lahai chashasha Vadai Mutar.
good.
Okay, so Rabbeinu Yonah wrote in Perek Devarim that after the meat soup, it's
Yep.
certainly permissible to eat cheese once you have done the washing and the wiping, um, and it's not required to wait um, unless you ate meat and there is meat between your teeth.
Yeah, because of the meat between your teeth. But
But the soup isn't a concern, and therefore it's certainly permissible to eat cheese.
yeah, now granted, this is the meat between the teeth, not the moshech tamo. But surely, if you eat soup, there's no meat stuck in your teeth. We'll get to what kind of soup here, and so there's no worry. So, all right, but we get through Rabbeinu Yerucham.
V'Rabbeinu Yerocham katav re'iti l'ravotai nahagim came davka marash basar shehu tzalo aval av
Yeah,
כגון אם ירקות כרצבו אסור לאכול אחריו כבינה עד סעודה אחרת, שמא יש במרק בשר ואינו נראה, וכן ראוי להורות, וכן מוכיח מטוסות.
it should be a tosfot. Yeah, I'd kind of know. Yeah, so
So Rabbeinu Yerucham said, wrote, um, and it was, when I saw it from a rabbi.
yeah, I saw how did my rabbis act? Right, I did shimush talmidei chachamim, right, and I learned. So
And this is with meat soup that is liquidy, but with more thick soup. For instance, something that has vegetables or something in it. It's forbidden to eat after that meat soup,
uh,
cheese,
eat cheese. Yeah, exactly.
until the next meal, because perhaps that meat soup, the thick meat soup, has meat in it, and you didn't recognize it. Um, yeah, and so this is the proof for the Tosfot.
But not proof. This is Uli wrote. This is how we should teach people, right? So if you eat, I think he means, if it's meat broth, if you have chicken soup and you strain out all the stuff and you just have the broth, then according his teachers would then eat cheese afterwards. But if if it had, chunks of stuff in it, then he thinks you should wait till the next Suda, right? From Sudas to Suda. All right. Finally, the Mordechai.
והמורדכי כתב, ראיתי מורים שאסר לאכול גבינה אחר ביצים מטוגנים בשומן משום הגזירה עטו בשר וחלב. עד כאן. So the Mordecai wrote, and I saw my teacher that it is forbidden to eat cheese after the eggs that have been fried in shuman and animal fat
Mhm.
because of the gezerah that you might come to eat meat and milk together.
But I just to pause. Who's the open question to group? Who's the Mordechai's teacher?
The Maharam.
Maharam.
Yeah, Maharam Rothenberg. Maharam doesn't help us. There's a lot of Maharams in history, but Maharam Rothenberg. So teacher of the Mordechai and the Rosh. So he says the Maharam Rothenberg, pretty big authority. He thinks it's kind of like a gezerah on a gezerah, right? In some ways here, there's a gezerah not to eat to eat gavina after eggs fried in schmaltz, not because it's asur, but because it's people might come to eat basar b'chalav together. All right, let's finish this up here, Kalev.
וכן נהגו העולם שלא לאכול גבינה אחר תבשיל של בשר כלל ואין לערוץ גדר.
Mhm.
And so it's also the custom of everyone not to eat cheese after a meat dish in general. And the aim carrots getter.
Yeah, don't break open the fence. In other words, don't go against. Don't try to. What's the right word? Don't be a rebel in this case. So, okay.
מיהו אם אין בשר בתבשיל, אף על פי שנתבשל בקדרה, שמבשלים בבשר, לא נהגו להחמיר, ומותר לאכול אחריו גבינה. However, if there isn't meat in the dish, even though it was cooked in a pot, that you would cook in it some meat, it's not the custom to be machmir, and so it's permissible to eat cheese after that meat dish.
Mhm.
The imutar.
Yeah, this is the next piece is going to bring into no ten tam or no ten tam. That'll be sadi hey. So we're not going to do that right now. So, okay. Out of all of this from the Beit Yosef, what do we make of all of this? What's the rule? Anybody?
Well, from the Beit Yosef, he does say, don't eat. He says, "V'chen nagu ha'olam shelo la'achol gvina akar tavshil shel basar klal ve'in lifrotz geder." So it sounds
Yeah.
like you can't rely on the school based on Beit Yosef. He
Oh, no.
doesn't paskin that in the Shulchan Aruch, but
Exactly. Oh, good. So that seems to be, yeah, yeah, that's his words, not the Mordechai. Yeah, that is his words. So yeah, sounds like no, don't do it. But all right, let's see what he does in the Shulchan Aruch then. So everyone go now we go back to Yoreh Deah, pay tet. How are we doing on time? Yeah, we're doing well. Let's take a look at how he paskins it. This is Gimel. So Yoreh Deah, pay tet, seif Gimel. If I can turn my page. Oh, we lost somebody. But are you let's see. Everybody's read who has voice. Is that possible?
Does my sound work
Oh,
now?
it works. Good. You get to
Oh,
read.
good.
Uh,
So should I read the Shulchan Aruch Gimel?
Shulchan Aruch Gimel. Yeah.
About tafshil shel basar mutar lo.
Do the first word again, or maybe I misheard you. So.
Oh, achal tafshil shel basar mutar lechol acharav tafshil shel gvina. The natila b'dam ina ela reshut.
Mhm.
Someone who eats something cooked of meat, it's permitted to eat after it something cooked of cheese, and the natila between them is only reshut. V'yesh matzrichem natila. Aval im bala chol agvina atzma achar tavshil shel basar o habasar atzma achar tavshil shel gvina chova litol yadav.
Mhm.
But if one comes to eat real cheese after some cooked thing of meat, or meat itself after something cooked of cheese, he's required to wash his hands.
Exactly. So he's operating per the Kula version of this, the essentially.
Mhm.
It's interesting. I don't know. Well, we'll see that the Ramah is gonna be strict about it and follow like the Mordechai. I don't. I've never really asked people about this if people do this, but I don't think that the Shulchan Aruch custom, like his paskening, really is how people follow in general. I think it's more like the Mordechai, but maybe I don't know enough of the Sephardi world to know how they do things. So, but let's see the Haggah and how
Yeah.
Ramah does with it.
Haggah. The Shuman shel basar dino kivasar atzmo. And schmaltz, its law is like meat itself. V'nagu achshav lahachmir shelo lechol gvina achar tavshil basar kamo achar basar atzmo. V'im lisnot b'frot sketer. And our custom now is to be machmir, that we don't eat cheese after some cooked meat thing, like after meat itself, and we shouldn't change things and be a rebel, breach a fence.
Exactly.
Mihu im in basar b'tavshil rak nitbashel b'kdera shel basar mutar la'achol acharav gvina. The imbo min ha'gahachmir v'chei nogin l'chol basar achar tavshil sheyesh bo gvina o chalav. Mihu yesh li tol yadav b'nehem. However, if it isn't meat if it isn't any cooked meat thing, but rather just something that was cooked in a meat pot, it's permitted to eat cheese after it. And there's no custom to be strict, and thus it's our custom to eat meat after the tavshil that has like a cooked thing that has cheese or milk in it.
Mm-hmm.
However, one should wash his hands between them. Im naga behem biyadav. Right. And even if one doesn't eat meat itself, but rather some cooked thing of meat after some cooked dairy dish, if he touches with his hands, then he should wash his hands between.
Mm-hmm. So we're not going to worry about the next piece, which is about the shamash, and it's really about Ori's in the waiting room. That's about essentially my rishonim. But good. So how do we paskin this whole thing at the end? Someone give me what's the bottom line halacha? It's a lot of halacha. But...
we're strict about it and consider tavshils to be the thing itself, essentially. And so we would not have dairy after tavshil shel basar. But if it's just a meat pot, then we could have dairy after and don't have to worry about being strict about washing our hands then. No, sorry, we do have to
But oh no, no,
It's a little unclear.
if you eat cheese after a meat, if you have a tafshil gvina
Yeah.
and then you eat meat after, you need to do netilat yadayim, beef between the knees.
Yes.
So that's the important.
Yeah. In that case, you do. And
So we're not
yeah.
about having used them. We'll see when we get to study. Hey, this is probably we're talking about a pot that was used in the last 24 hours, not one that waited. This is I actually had a whole thing which we'll get into. I just want to kind of anticipate it here. It was like I bought some not muffins, cupcakes, and it said dairy on it, but it said vegan, and so I called the hashgacha. It was like KSA, which is based, it's like a few miles from my parents' house in La Cienega Boulevard in Los Angeles, if you know it. And I left them a message and I said, I just want to know, is this dairy equipment? What is it? And so one of their mashgichim called me back and he said, well, we can't guarantee that all the stuff in here is parv, but I can't guarantee the equipment was clean between runs. And I said, what do you mean? I said, stam kilim are clean. And he said, well, you make your own choice. And I said, okay. I said, what would you do? And he said he wouldn't tell me, but he said, make your own choice. But we'll get into that in Saudi Hay a little bit. It's an interesting question, all the things about dairy equipment. But okay, we seem at the end of the day, even though there's a major leniency in the poskim, some of the poskim between a tavshil of basar to gvina, where maybe you only have to wash your hands, and a tavshil basar to tavshil gvina, where you don't even have to wash your hands. Nonetheless, we're machmer about it. We still have wait times between the two, and if it's from tavshil gvina to basar, we wash our hands. That's what the Rama says. So,
Could I ask a question? I just don't see anywhere, unless you can point me to it, in the Machaber or the Ramah, where anyone is suggesting that there should be a wait time from Tav Shel Basar to Tav Shel Gvina. Like in the very first line, the Machaber says you don't need to wash, and then the Ramah immediately jumps in and says you do have to wash. But
yeah.
then, at no other point in this Sif does anyone suggest that you would have to wait, unless I'm missing something.
Between
From Tav Shel Basar, so from I don't know, from meat soup to dairy soup.
But I mean, he says naguach shav leachmir shelo lecho gvina achar tavshil basar, right? But that's gvina.
Yeah, but that's gvina. That's not tavshil shel gvina.
Gvina. It's a really interesting point. Yeah, seems like he might be saying that. Yeah, you could potentially. We'd have to get into what counts as tavshil shel basar, right? But yeah, it might be the case that that at least everyone here would think that if I ate just chicken soup broth with nothing in it, that maybe I could eat then some sort of tavshil that has milk in it. Like, I don't know, scrambled eggs with milk or something like that. Maybe. So
crazy. But I don't consider that normative, but that's interesting.
Yeah, I've never heard of it, but I think if you read carefully the words, it doesn't seem to be such a problem. It's a very particular case, though, of course, right? On the other hand, I will say, if you remember, the Beit Yosef doesn't paskin it here, but he said on the Mordechai that, actually the Mordechai said, my teacher, the Maharami Rotenberg, said, don't do this because it will lead people to eating milk and meat together, right? There'll be a leniency that pops up because of it. So, okay. I didn't talk about, if you saw in the tshuva of the Be'er Moshe, he mentions the Chatam Sofer who has a tshuva where he says that in cases where you have someone who's sick, not like that they're nafala mishkav, not where they're like safek nefashot kind of case, that he actually would allow following the Tosfot, between the two to begin with. So there might be specialized cases for all of this where someone really needs the food or that's what you have available or something like that. So. Good. Let's see. Rav Landis, did you want to say something for?
I wanted you to define tafshil.
Yeah. So it seemed to be that from what we saw in the Beit Yosef that tavshil here was that the basar isn't be'ayin, right? That you can't see it. I have to imagine also can't be majority basar, right? It's usually we talk about that it has to be majority something else. So like again, like scrambled eggs, and you make the scrambled eggs with some milk. I don't know if people make their scrambled. I make my scrambled eggs that way, and
or with butter.
Or with good. So that was the thing we saw the shuman shel basar. Although here it seems to be that you're right, if the butter is a secondary ingredient, if you fry it in butter or fry it in schmaltz, that would seem to be a case where it's tavshil and not basar itself. Rav Lenis, does that work?
No, it works. But what you're saying is that if the meat was in any way be'en, or the milk was in any way be'en,
Mhm.
and when you make eggs with milk, it is be'en, you
That's
see
true.
that.
Yeah.
No?
I was thinking even like if you can't see it when it's cooked, then it doesn't count as bane. But
I,
is that can you see it? I don't know if you can.
no, okay, no, I don't want to, all right, so Macias can be argued, but why would it be? Just explain it to me. Why would it be that if it's not the end, that it's mutter? But just explain it to me. Why would that be?
I mean, I think the idea, two things. I'll take two different kind of approaches. One is the mitzias of like it's stuck between your teeth, or it's still like the taste is still in your mouth. It really isn't the case because the taste, well, you can still taste the milk, maybe it's overwhelmed by the other stuff, and therefore that you don't have this reality of something being stuck between your teeth or being, in your throat.
Mhm.
And the other version is, it's not really, if we say it's, you also have to ben suda la suda, it's not really a milk suda, right? It's a suda that had milchiks in it, but the milk, really, it's a suda of eggs or a suda of, I don't know, if I fried my eggs in butter, and it's really a suda of an egg. It's not a suda of butter, and so that um, there's not the concern of making kind of the separation in the same way.
Okay, finally, and what's the chashash that we have that this leads to sin? What sin would it lead to?
Yeah, I think it will, if people say, well, the other day I fried my eggs in butter, or sorry, I ate meat and then I don't know, I fried my eggs in schmaltz. I ate some, schmaltzy eggs and then I ate
Mhm.
milk after. I said, I've been told that's perfectly fine. And that will lead people to say, well, it doesn't seem like you really need that much separation between meat and milk, or, as long as I had some other stuff in the meal besides meat, maybe it's okay. You can imagine that the fence would fall down pretty quickly once you allow any.
Was again, so let me put that together as my question. It's all
Yeah.
questions to you. You're the posik here. So, does without be'en defines true fleishiks or true melchiks.
Mhm.
Be'en defines that. Okay,
Yeah.
I think you're right. Thank you.
Yeah. It's, as I said, I don't know, maybe Rav Lenis, you know of people who follow the Mechaber here who actually do go from, like, as Josie put it, you fried your eggs in meat, and then they eat their coffee with creamer or something. Creamer might be BN, right? Because you can see it. That to me seems that you can see it. But
No, I don't know. I think that's, I think, the N is a full definition to exclusion of anything else that I don't think made it in the end.
yeah. So,
I don't think it's made it.
all right. Kalev, did you have a question? Did I see a hand?
Yeah, so I was wondering about the Shuman shel Basar, the Basar Atzmo, with the eggs that you're frying in the schmaltz. Um, would that not be, would the Ramah not consider that to be like Basar itself? Or are we talking about the schmaltz? I've made schmaltz, like rendered it down, where you have the crackling left over, you have these bits and pieces of skin or membranes that are fried up, and that is what is being considered Basar Atzmo.
That was, I think, when you can see the Schumann, right? That's as opposed to the Schumann's used as a cooking agent, where you can't really see it at the end of the day. So, but that was my take. Again, it's like this is kind of like a little bit of a theoretical thing because we don't really poskin like this in general. Although Noam pointed out, nowhere does it say that tav shil shel basar and you have to wait till tav shil shel gvina. So it's kind of interesting. Um, but people don't do this in general. On the other hand, in a case, I can imagine in a case of tzorech, right? This is something it's in the Shulchan Aruch, right? It's something to rely on in a case of a great tzorech, whatever it may be that great tzorech is. So, okay. I want to do knives. we don't have too much time, but I want to do some knife stuff here. Seif Dalit in the Shulchan Aruch. Max, take us away. I know, by the way, I'm sorry, I assigned it, but I didn't give you achronim on it, but you guys are all smart people, so you can do it. So go ahead, Max.
So you said dal in the Shulchan Aruch?
Yeah.
Okay. מי שאכל גבינה ורוצה לאכול בשר, צריך לבאר מעל השולחן שירי pas שאכלו עם הגבינה. So if you finished a dairy meal and now it's time to have your cholent, you need to take out, remove all of the bread, really, I guess anything that really was eaten with the cheese beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
ואסור לאכול גבינה על מפה שאכלו בה בשר. And you can't, וכן להפך אסור. And you can't, you need to switch out the placemat in both directions before and after meat to milk.
Exactly. You have, this, by the way, Shabbos, having, you have a nice tablecloth on the table, and you eat your meat meal, and then, the next day you eat a dairy meal. Some of your meals, you should either switch the tablecloth or, put something on top of, put a second tablecloth on top of it or something like that, or a placemat. So, okay.
וכל שכן אשר אסור לחתוך גבינה, אפילו צוננס, בסכין שרגילים לחתוך בשר. And if you have a knife that you usually use to cut hard cheese, I guess, it doesn't matter that it's cold.
It's the other way. It's you have cheese, yeah, and did you say knife or the cheese? Sorry, I may have misheard.
I thought I said a knife cutting cold cheese.
Oh, okay, good. That's good.
Yeah. If that knife is normally used to cut, I guess, hot meat, that would need to mean.
Good.
Maybe.
It's an interesting question. It may not necessarily be. So it's a question of what our concern is going to be here. So.
Right. I guess regulian means, I guess, just we assume that knife has the status of meat.
Exactly.
ולא עוד, אלא אפילו הפס שאוכלים עם הגבינה אסור לחתוך בסכין שחותכים בו בשר. And also bread that you usually or that you're eating with the cheese, you can't cut that bread, that grilled cheese with a meat knife.
Exactly. Do the Ramah.
וכן להפך נמי אסור, right? Goes everything that we're saying about meat equipment with dairy food goes the other way. Mihu al yedei neitza bekarka kasha share, but you can do neitza with the knife, and that would allow it.
Wait, hold on. Explain the itza.
You stab the knife into the ground.
Yeah, into hard packed dirt, right?
Yeah.
You do it, and then that will. I think some people say 10 times. So. Okay, so what are we concerned with in terms of what does the neitza do for us? Like, what's its function?
Just to sort of neutralize any flavor or make it pagum maybe, but probably more the sort of generally neutralizing.
Yeah, I think I don't think we'll have time to go into it too much, but it seems to be, as people call it koshering the knife, but really what seems to be going on here is knives don't get cleaned very easily, right? It's very hard to clean a knife. They have shuman stuck to them all the time. And that's really the concern. Like, why would you care about a cold knife? Some people will say there is like some sort of cooking because there's pressure of the knife, but really what the major concern seems to be is that there's so good, Josie. I can't remember if it was the Taz or the Shach. One of them talks about if you take like a whetstone, and you run it over the knife, that works as well. You need to really clean the shuman off the knife, and that will even before you cut the other one. That's really what we care about. So neitza is really a cleaning process in more ways than others. And Rav Nachum talks about this a lot. It's really not a koshering, it's a cleaning process. Oh, maybe you could say all koshering is a cleaning process to some extent, but okay, keep going.
Okay. אבל כבר נהגו כל ישראל ליוס להם שני סכינים, ולרשום אחד מהם שיהיה לו הכר. ונהגו לרשום שחלה, ואין לשנות מנהג של ישראל. But we have these stickers that you sell in the grocery store in order to mark what knife is meat and what knife is dairy.
I don't think they.
And or
Yeah, I don't think
I
they.
know I was joking. I was
Yeah.
joking. But it seems like he's saying that actually you only make some sort of mark on the dairy one,
Mhm.
but not on the meat one.
Yeah, that's how they did it. They marked them. The dairy knife had a mark on it, and the meat knife in the world didn't.
Stayed bare.
Nowadays, usually people, maybe less so in their world, right? You have like, maybe not everyone does this, but you have like your sets look different. It's like when you register for your wedding gifts, you sit there kind of poring over like which one are we gonna, with a certain type of end will be our meat ones, a certain type of end will be our milk ones, so we know. But we have stickers that people put on all the time. Rav Landis, please.
No,
Oh, okay.
enjoy.
But I do want to maybe, yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Question about Itza Bakarka. Is it Dafka or does that also include cleaning with soap?
Good question. I'm going to leave soap until we get further into the Shulchan Aruch.
I think it's karka. The real problem is the hilt.
Mhm.
You can get the rest. It's clean with a whetstone, but that place between the handle and the
Blade.
blade, really hard to get it unless you, as a little boy, my parents had a big fight, and all of a sudden my mother, a little bit, rose out to the backyard. I'm in the backyard, madder than hell. She says, I'm going to kill him. And she stabs the knife 10 times into the ground. I'm thinking, what? Oh, what happened to Dad? He traipsed her knife and she was ready to kill. But it's very, first of all, it works, but it's also quite enjoyable.
It is. I've done it before.
By the way, he came out later on, so.
But do we have time? We have 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Let's see. So I want to do part of the shachar, and then I got to decide how I want to use the 10 minutes. Let's look at the Taz. The shach's a little bit different in Vav. Maybe Noam, you want to read the Taz there in Vav?
Sure. Mihu al yedei me'itza. Okay. But by this embedding in the earth. Zekai Amasha Katuv.
Amasha Katav, yeah.
Amasha Katav. It's an olive. Anyway, but that's okay. שרוצה לחתוך גבינה בסכין של בשר, אבל במה שכתב שאסור לחתוך לחם וכולי, לא צריך רק קינוח הסכין כדמשמע בבית יוסף.
מה שכתב בשם אורח חיים.
במה שכתב בשם אורחות חיים. B'Shem Rebbe Shimon. Okay, yeah, these names are messing me up. Okay, so this act of putting the knife into the ground, that's referring to cutting dairy with a meat knife. But in terms of what they're referring to, which is lachtoch lechem, in terms of cutting bread, then all you really need is cleaning off the knife, as it says in Beit Yosef, etc.
Mm-hmm. So good. So this is where I get a nice distinction, at least according to the Taz, seems to think, and he'll get into a little bit of why, right? That if you have a meat knife and you're gonna cut your cheese with it, then you have to do neitzah bekarka. But if you're gonna take your meat knife and you're gonna cut your bread with it, then you would have to just wash it, right? Clean it off, and that's enough for him. So okay, keep going.
ושם כתוב הטעם דהבנת ברנת, לעידן אין צורך לזה, שהרי מבואר בסימן צדי ו' דווקא בדבר חריף אמרינן דבולע משום דוחקא דסכין. So, and there, the reason, meaning there being the case of the cheese,
But
no, the case of the bread, right?
no, the reason that you worry about a knife in general, I think, is what he's talking about. That is talking about the Dvar Harif, cutting with a knife. So, um,
Oh, is because of not burn not. And for us, we don't need this reason because, as explained in Siman Sadi Vav, that's specifically for something that's Harif, that we say that it does absorb due to the pressure of the knife.
yeah, he does not seem to be so concerned with the stuff being stuck to the knife. He's really concerned about the knife is imbuing flavor, and therefore he says, yeah, that's really only concern for Dvar Harif and not for other things. Isaac, what do you have?
Nothing, just a cat that's on my head.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yes, fair. All right. The Shach seems to be more machmir about it, but we've run out of time, so everyone should look at the Shach in Kafbet. I will also say the whole thing about the having two different knives, Minhag Yisrael. I think it was the Taz who says, and I think it's in Zayin. He says, yeah, but if you're on the road, then you might have like this also would work for like a non-kosher knife as well, right? Doing the itza. If you need to, right? If you're for something that's not harif, you could put it in the ground 10 times and you can and then you could use it to cut your food after that. So, but I did this once. I was at an Airbnb. Yeah, that was exactly. It happened to me at Airbnb. I needed a knife, and so we did the itza in the ground 10 times, and we used it for cold food. So, uh, okay. Good. We'll end there. I'm not sure. I assume we're doing Sadi next week, but I don't know the details of it. So, Shikoch, everybody.
Shkoch, good night.
Kach.
Thanks. Shkoyach.
Thank you.
I'm saying I'm Rav Lennis, but you're on mute. So,
First of all, very enjoyable.
oh, let me stop the recording before we.